This morning we're at Fort Zachary Taylor, named after our 12th president. It's one of 3 forts that were built on Key West in the mid-1800s as part of the 3rd tier system of defense fortifications. It's built and it's right at the confluence of the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean. It was built to protect this area because at the time the entirety of our cotton crop went through this area on its way to market. So it was to protect trade in the Atlantic area for the southern United States. Fort Taylor has the largest concentration of Civil War armaments in the United States, in the world, actually, although the vast majority of them are buried in the fort's walls, so they are no longer accessible. So in 1898, the USS Maine sailed from here, stopping in dry Tortugas at Fort Jefferson before heading on to Havana Harbor, before it mysteriously blew up, which is the catalyst which pulled America into the Cuban War of Independence, or as we might know it, the Spanish-American War. So this is a good representation of what the barracks were. So you can imagine, as crammed as they were into areas like this with the heat, the humidity, it was not a very comfortable existence to be stationed at Fort Taylor. So in February of 1861, in the lead up to the Civil War, as Florida was preparing to secede from the Union, federal troops of Company B of the 1st Artillery in the night seized control of Fort Taylor to prevent it from falling into Confederate hands. So Key West was very sympathetic to the Southern cause, and there were a lot of Southern sympathizers here. So on May 10th, 1861, martial law was declared in Key West, and it pretty much stayed that way through the remainder of the war. When Fort Taylor was originally built, it was on its own island about 1,200 feet from the mainland. As ships got bigger and the need for deeper channels and the deeper harbor, the Navy started a dredging project. So it was decided that the deposits from the dredging would be placed around Fort Taylor, and by the mid-1960s it was completely landlocked. Although Fort Zachary Taylor never fired a shot in anger, it doesn't mean that there wasn't any deaths associated with it. This was from the Sunbury American newspaper dated June 16th, 1862. A very sad accident happened here one day last week, which was cast a gloom over the whole regiment. First Sergeant Charles Nolf, Company I, 47th Regiment Pennsylvania Volunteers, was out on the beach with a few friends of his company gathering shells. In front of them were 4 of the 90th New York boys with loaded rifles on their shoulders. One of them was carelessly playing with the trigger of his gun when bang, off went the load. The ball entering the forehead of Nolf, killing him instantly. Great excitement was caused by this accident. For a time, our boys not knowing the particulars, some of them were determined to avenge their comrade's death, but an investigation pronounced it accidental. When they were satisfied, Nolf was a young man of excellent character, beloved by all who knew him, and it seemed hard that he should be hurried to eternity in such manner, and that too, when the carrying of loaded rifles was strictly prohibited.
So something I get asked about a lot as we travel around is what is accessible and what's not accessible. Well, that's kind of an open range for a lot of different conditions. I do like to try to point out that obviously there were stairs here, there was no elevator, but you could visit the lower portions fairly easily. There is a dirt trail to get out here that we kind of showed you early on, but the stairs would definitely be a problem. There's no handrail to get up the stairs. This trail goes out around to get a better look at the exterior of the fort.
The fort used to be 3 stories tall. At some point, they took the top 2 stories off. I'm not sure exactly when that was, but if you're interested in that and more information and specifics, please check out our article in the description below, and you'll have more information on all of that.